Wait, start now.
Okay. Once upon a time, there was a little Velveteen Rabbit. He was a present in a Christmas stocking one morning for a little boy. And at first, the little boy was really excited. For about 2 hours, he had lots of fun playing with him. But then, the boy's aunt and uncle came over, and they gave them all kinds of fancy presents. So, in all the excitement, the little boy kind of forgot about the Velveteen Rabbit for a while. So in the nursery, the Velveteen Rabbit kind of kept to himself because he was shy, and most of the other toys weren't very nice to him because they were kind of stuck up. They thought they were better than him because they were made of better parts, and oh my goodness, those mechanical toys, they really thought they were something. They pretended they were real, and they talked about their parts using big words whenever possible. But there was one toy who was kind to him, and that was the old skin horse. The skin horse had belonged to the boy's uncle many, many years ago. He was very old and very wise. He knew all about the nursery magic of how toys become real. Well, Velveteen Rabbit, he was very curious about this nursery magic, and he thought maybe he wanted to become real. So he decided to ask the skin horse about the nursery magic.
How do you become real?
You become real when a child loves you, and I mean really loves you. Not just to play with, but really loves you and believes you're real.
So, does that mean you're real?
And at first, Velveteen Rabbit thought, oh, maybe he shouldn't ask that. The skin horse might be sensitive. But Skin Horse just smiled and said, yes, the boy's uncle made me real many, many years ago. But I'm still real to this day because once you become real, you can't become unreal. It lasts forever. And Velveteen Rabbit was even more curious now. He thought he wanted to become real, but then he decided he'd probably better ask,
Does it hurt to become real?
And the skin horse was always very honest, so he replied, sometimes, but when you're real, you don't mind being hurt. And Velveteen Rabbit thought, why would it hurt to become real? So the skin horse explained, well, usually by the time you become real, your joints get loose and your whiskers fall off and you don't look very much like yourself. But once you're real, you can only become ugly to those who don't understand. And Velveteen Rabbit grew curiouser and curiouser. He thought, this sounds so wonderful, but so painful at the same time. I want to be real, but I wish there was a more comfortable way to become real. And he would soon find out, because that night, the boy's china dog, his favorite toy, was missing. So Nana, the lady who ruled the nursery and often tidied up, which the toys didn't enjoy very much, said,
here, you can sleep with this rabbit instead.
So that night, the Velveteen Rabbit slept with the boy, and at first he thought it was very uncomfortable because the boy squeezed him really tight and sometimes buried him in the covers. But after a while, he grew to enjoy it because the boy and him would play games and be silly together and have special secret talks, and he felt that the boy really grew to love him. Well, one day, he and the boy went to the park together. And you know what happened at the park? Velveteen Rabbit met some wild rabbits. Now, up until then, Velveteen Rabbit, he didn't even really know what real rabbits were or what they were like. So, the real rabbits would frolic over to him and invited him to dance. But this was a little embarrassing for the poor Velveteen Rabbit because, get this, he didn't even have hind legs. But of course, he didn't want to admit this, so he just said,
No thank you, I don't like dancing. I'd rather sit still.
and the wild rabbit said,
Fancy a rabbit without any hind legs. I have hind legs. I'm sitting on them. Then stretch them and show us, and dance around like this. No thank you.
And suddenly, a boy came running by, and the wild rabbit darted back into the bush.
Hey, come back. I'm real. The boy said so. Really, come back. Oh dear, I wish they hadn't run away like that.
And for a while, Velveteen Rabbit just lay there. He wanted to see the wild rabbits again, but they never came back. Sad. And that night, the boy, they took him in, and they had many more wonderful games together where the boy would pretend to bury him in a blanket, and he said that they were just like the burrows that real rabbits made. And as the weeks passed on and on, the boy and the Velveteen Rabbit grew to love each other more and more, and slowly but surely, Velveteen Rabbit was falling apart. His whiskers fell out, his pink ears were turning gray, the soft material was rubbing off his nose, and his beautiful velveteen fur was fading away, and goodness, he hardly even looked like a rabbit anymore, except to the boy who truly loved him and had said he was real. And that's all that mattered to him. What?
7 minutes.
What?
You're at 7.
Okay. Well, things continued this way until one fateful day. The boy was stricken with scarlet fever. Velveteen Rabbit didn't really understand what scarlet fever was, but he knew it wasn't good. And he knew it made a boy very hot, because when the boy hugged him close, it nearly burned him up. And later, he found out that every toy that the boy had touched or played with while he was sick was to be burned. So Velveteen Rabbit was packed up with some old picture books and toys and put in a bag and put in the backyard. And he didn't understand what was going on, but he was very sad because he didn't want to be separated from the boy. And so he thought,
after becoming real, is this how it all ends? I'm not so sure this was all worth it.
And he shed a single tear, a real tear, and it fell to the ground. But then something strange and wonderful happened. Where that tear fell, a beautiful flower grew. And then something even more strange and wonderful happened. From that flower, an even more beautiful fairy flew out. And Velveteen Rabbit felt that she looked very familiar. The fairy took him up in her arms and kissed his nose and said,
Well, hello, I'm the nursery fairy. I am the one who takes care of toys when children no longer need them and makes them real.
And Velveteen Rabbit was confused at this.
But I thought I was already real. Oh, you are real to the boy because he loves you so much. But now you shall be real to everyone.
And he carried him in her arms and took him to the woods and kissed his nose once more before setting him down. And for a while he just lay there, not sure what was going on and kind of scared. And he might have lain there for a while, but then a fly came along and tickled his nose, and as if by reflex, he reached up with his hind foot to scratch his nose, and then he realized he had hind legs.
Wow.
He leapt up in joy, and he frolicked around and hopped around with the other bunnies, and he realized he was at last real, and it was a dream come true. Well, autumn passed and winter came, and one day the rabbit ran into the woods behind the house where the boy had lived, and the boy stepped out of the house and looked into those woods, and he saw that bunny, and he said, "You know, that looks just like the bunny I had that was lost when I had scarlet fever." But he never knew that it was in fact the very bunny who had come to look at him, because it was his pure and childlike love that had first helped him to become real. The end.